Hey, Bhakta Chris. Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we go to where Srila Prabhupada wanted us to go. Srila Prabhupada worked really hard to translate and comment on the major scriptures, the essence of the scriptures, to uplift human society. That was his idea, that was his plot, to uplift human society by the distribution of the congregational chanting of the holy name and the mass distribution of his books. So people could learn how to chant, the mentality to chant. Because the chanting is not just musical entertainment, which it is. It is musical entertainment. And it's not ordinary musical entertainment. But in order to chant, to get love of God by chanting, one has to learn how to chant without offense. And part of that is to be conscious of who Krishna is when you're chanting his names. So the Bhagavatam teaches us how to be more and more conscious of Krishna, so that when we chant, we can perceive the holy name for what it is. And when we look out at the world, we can see the world for what it is. And this is all a part of learning to chant without offense. So I cannot emphasize this enough. And Prabhupada emphasizes it every page in his books, the importance of hearing these books, especially the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, with that introduction, we welcome all of you out there in cyberspace and thank all of you for being loyal followers and hearers of Srila Prabhupada's books. Hare Krishna Prana. We have Bhakta Robert here, a new devotee who's just been coming around lately, and he's got all grins because he's tasting something. It's apparent. Got Bhakta Chris here, he's tasted something, it's apparent. Anyway, so Sanatana Goswami wrote a prayer glorifying specifically the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and it explains what the Bhagavatam is in very simple but deep terms. So we do this every day, everybody knows, but some people are new, so we're saying this every day so that everybody knows what we're doing. We chant the Sanskrit because it's very purifying, the Sanskrit. The Sanskrit language is not like any other language. It's very precise. There's not two different ways of saying the words. Like in English you say, I can't think of a word right offhand that you say in two different ways that mean two different things. Tail, T-A-L-E, T-A-I-L, mean two completely different things, same sound. Anyway, the Sanskrit language is not like that. It's very, very scientific, and every sound is scientific and precise. So therefore, hearing the sound vibration of the Sanskrit is purifying. So we'll hear the Sanskrit, and then we'll hear the English, what it means according to our language. Okay. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drik Prada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad-Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Nuditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Mad Nistadagamad Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. A sadhu, sadhu tadayin, ati nicho tatakara, hanamun chagadachin mam, prem narit kadayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me, always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, third chapter, 10th canto, starting with text 47. We've heard about Krishna appearing to Devaki as his mother and Vasudeva as his father. He appeared in a full form, Vishnu form, right from the heart of Devaki. It wasn't a normal birth. And then when Devaki was afraid that Kamsa was going to come and hurt him or kill him out of pure motherly affection, she said, please hide yourself. Because you come and if he's like this, he's going to come and bring his army and he's going to kill you or hurt you. This is pure love. She forgot that he's the Lord. Only the Lord can appear in a full Vishnu form outside the body of the mother, in a full-size form, fully decorated with all ornaments and accoutrements of the Lord. But still, she had pure motherly love. So therefore she said, okay. She was afraid. So then, in front of their eyes, he changed his shape to a little baby boy, normal human baby with 2 arms. And then they offered their prayers. Before this, they offered their prayers. And then Krishna, he explained who they were and why he was there and what he was going to do. And now Shukadeva Goswami is going on from there. Text 47. Thereafter, exactly when Vasudeva, being inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was about to take the newborn child from the delivery room, Yogamaya, the Lord's spiritual energy, took birth as the daughter of the wife of Maharaj Nanda. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur discusses that Krishna appeared simultaneously as the son of Devaki and as the son of Yashoda, along with the spiritual energy, Yogamaya. As the son of Devaki, he first appeared as Vishnu and became and because Vasudeva was not in the position of pure affection for Krishna, Vasudeva worshipped his son as Lord Vishnu. Yashoda, however, pleased her son without understanding, or pleased her son Krishna without understanding his godhood. This is the difference between Krishna as the son of Yashoda and as the son of Devaki. This is explained by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur on the authority of the Hari Vangsha. The Hari Vangsha is the appendix of Vyasadev's Mahabharata. Brihad Bhagavatamrita is the appendix of Jaimini's Mahabharata. Okay, text 48 and 49. By the influence of Yogamaya, all the doorkeepers fell fast asleep. Okay, so everybody's awake now, so we can't make a joke about that. By the influence of Yogamaya, all the doorkeepers fell fast asleep, their senses unable to work, and the other inhabitants of the house also fell deeply asleep. When the sun rises, the darkness automatically disappears. Similarly, when Vasudeva appeared, the closed doors, which were strongly pinned with iron and locked with iron chains, opened automatically. Since the clouds in the sky were mildly thundering and showering, Anantanag, an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, followed Vasudeva, beginning from the door with hoods expanded to protect Vasudeva and the transcendental child. Hare Krishna. Oh, look. Haribol, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good to see you. Come a long ways, Calcutta. Are you still in Calcutta?
Yes, Mayapur, Calcutta.
Hare Krishna. Very nice to see you.
Thank you.
Blast from the past. Purport. Sheshanaga is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead whose business is to serve the Lord with all necessary paraphernalia. When Vasudeva was carrying the child, Sheshanaga came to serve the Lord and protect him from the mild showers of rain. Text 50. Because of constant rain sent by the demigod Indra, the river Yamuna was filled with deep water, foaming about with fiercely whirling waves. But as the great Indian Ocean had formerly given way to Lord Ramachandra by allowing him to construct a bridge, the river Yamuna gave way to Vasudeva and allowed him to cross. 51. When Vasudeva reached the house of Nanda Maharaj, he saw that all the cowherd men were fast asleep. Thus he placed his own son on the bed of Yashoda, picked up her daughter, an expansion of Yogamaya, and then returned to his residence, the prison house of Kamsa. Purport. Vasudeva knew very well that as soon as the daughter was in the prison house of Kamsa, Kamsa would immediately kill her. But to protect his own child, he had to kill the child of his friend. Nanda Maharaj was his friend, but out of deep affection and attachment for his own son, he knowingly did this, because he didn't know that. He didn't know what was going to happen. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that one cannot be blamed for protecting one's own child at the sacrifice of another's. Furthermore, Vasudeva cannot be accused of callousness since his actions were impelled by the force of Yogamaya. Text 52. Vasudeva placed the female child on the bed of Devaki, bound his legs with the iron shackles, and thus remained there as before. Text 53. Exhausted by the labor of childbirth, Yashoda was overwhelmed with sleep and unable to understand what kind of child had been born to her. Purport. Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva were intimate friends, and so were their wives, Yashoda and Devaki. Although their names were different, they were practically non-different personalities. The only difference is that Devaki was able to understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead had been born to her and now had changed into Krishna, whereas Yashoda was not able to understand what kind of child had been born to her. Yashoda was such an advanced devotee that she never regarded Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but simply loved him as her own child. Devaki, however, knew from the very beginning that although Krishna was her son, he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Vrindavan, no one regarded Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When something very wonderful happened because of Krishna's activities, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the cowherd men, the cowherd boys, Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda, and the others, were surprised, but they never considered that their son Krishna, never considered their son Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes they suggested that some great demigod had appeared there as Krishna. In such an exalted status of devotional service, a devotee forgets the position of Krishna and intensely loves the Supreme Personality of Godhead without understanding his position. This is called Kevala Bhakti and is distinct from the stages of Jnana and Jnanamayi Bhakti. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 10th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Birth of Lord Krishna. Somebody told me, should have told me yesterday that we were that close to the end that I just had finished the chapter. Anyway, we got to hear the end today, so it's good. All right, so the plot thickens. Chapter 4, the atrocities of King Kamsa. This chapter describes how Kamsa, following the advice of his demoniac friends, considered the persecution of small children to be very diplomatic. Sound familiar? Immigration. No. After Vasudeva bound himself with iron shackles as before, all the doors of the prison house closed by the influence of Yogamaya, who then began crying as a newborn child. This crying awakened the doorkeepers, who immediately informed Kamsa that a child had been born to Devaki. Upon hearing this news, Kamsa appeared with great force in the maternity room. And in spite of Devaki's pleas that the child be saved, the demon forcibly snatched the child from Devaki's hands and dashed the child against a rock. Unfortunately for Kamsa, however, the newborn child slipped away from his hand, rose above his head, and appeared as the 8-armed form of Durga. Remember, it's an expansion of Yogamaya. This means Mahamaya. Durga then told Kamsa, "The enemy you contemplate has taken birth somewhere else. Therefore, your plan to persecute all the children will prove futile." Now, some of our acharyas use this statement as a part of the evidence that Krishna appeared simultaneously, Yashoda and Devaki. According to the prophecy, the 8th child of Devaki would kill Kamsa, and therefore when Kamsa saw that the 8th child was a female and heard that his so-called enemy had taken birth elsewhere, he was struck with wonder.
Sound effect.
Sound staged left. Oh. Material world, what can you do? According to the prophecy, the 8th child of Devaki would kill Kamsa, and therefore, when Kamsa saw that the 8th child was a female and heard that his so-called enemy had taken birth elsewhere, he was struck with wonder. He decided to release Devaki and Vasudeva, and he admitted before them the wrongness of his atrocities. Falling at the feet of Devaki and Vasudeva, he begged their pardon and tried to convince them that because the events that had taken place were destined to happen, they should not be unhappy for his having killed so many of their children. Devaki said, Devaki and Vasudeva, being naturally very pious, immediately excused Kamsa. Imagine, for his atrocities. You have to be that deep to be mother and father of God. You have to be that deep that you could forgive somebody who did that to you. I saw something where one of the parents of one of the people that were killed in one of these mass shootings made a public statement that he forgave the person who killed him.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is in the heart of the soul to be able to do this. Being naturally very pious, it takes a very pious person to do that. Very, very spiritually advanced person to do that. After seeing that his sister and brother-in-law were happy, returned to his home. Kangsa did. After the night passed, however, Kangsa called for his ministers and informed them of all that had happened. The ministers, who were all demons, advised Kangsa that because his enemy had already taken birth somewhere else, all the children born within the past 10 days in the villages within Kangsa's kingdom should be killed. Although the demigods always feared Kangsa, they should not be treated leniently. Since they were enemies, Kangsa should try his best to uproot their existence. The demoniac ministers further advised that Kangsa and the demons continue their enmity toward Vishnu, because Vishnu is the original person among all the demigods. The Brahmanas, the cows, the Vedas, austerity, truthfulness, control of the senses and mind, faithfulness, and mercy are among the different parts of the body of Vishnu, who is the origin of all the demigods, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Therefore, the ministers advised the demigods, the saintly persons, the cows, and the Brahmanas should be systematically persecuted. Strongly advised in this way by his friends, the demoniac ministers, Kangsa approved of their instructions and considered it beneficial to be envious of the Brahmanas. Following Kangsa's orders, therefore, the demons began committing their atrocities all over Brajabhumi. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami continued, My dear King Parikshit, the doors inside and outside the house closed as before. Thereafter the inhabitants of the house, especially the watchmen, heard the crying of the newborn child and thus awakened from their beds. Purport. The activities of Yogamaya are distinctly visible in this chapter, in which Devaki and Vasudeva excused Kangsa for his many devious, atrocious activities, and Kangsa becomes repentant and falls at their feet. Before the awakening of the watchmen and the others in the prison house, many other things happened. Krishna was born and transferred to the home of Yashoda in Gokula. The strong doors opened and again closed, and Vasudeva resumed his former condition of being shackled. The watchmen, however, could not understand all this. They awakened only when they heard the crying of the newborn child, Yogamaya. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has remarked that the watchmen were just like dogs. At night, the dogs in the street act like watchmen. If one dog barks, many other dogs immediately follow it by barking. Although the street dogs are not appointed by anyone to act as watchmen, they think they are responsible for protecting the neighborhood. And as soon as someone unknown enters it, they all begin to bark. Both Yogamaya and Mahamaya act in all material activities. Prakrite, kriyamanani, gunai, karmani, sarvashaha. But although the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead acts under the Supreme Lord's direction, Maya, Yakshena, Prakriti, Suyate, Sachiracharam, dog-like watchmen, such as politicians and diplomats and immigration department, think that they are protecting their neighborhoods from the dangers of the outside world. These are the actions of Maya. But one who surrenders to Krishna is relieved of the protection afforded by the dogs and dog-like guardians of this material world. Text 2. Thereafter, all the watchmen very quickly approached King Kamsa, the ruler of the Bhoja dynasty, and submitted the news of the birth of Devaki's child. Kamsa, who had awaited this news very anxiously, immediately took action. Purport. Kamsa was very anxiously waiting because of the prophecy that the 8th child of Devaki would kill him. This time, naturally, he was awake and waiting, and when the watchman approached him, he immediately took action to kill the child. Text 3. Kamsa immediately got up from bed thinking, here is Kala, the supreme time factor, which has taken birth to kill me. Thus overwhelmed, Kamsa, his hair scattered on his head, at once approached the place where the child had been born. Purport. The word Kala is significant. Although the child was born to kill Kamsa, Kamsa thought that this was the proper time to kill the child, so that he himself would be saved. Kala is actually another name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he appears only for the purpose of killing. When Arjuna inquired from Krishna in his universal form, "Who are you?" the Lord presented himself as Kala, death personified, to kill. By nature's law, when there is an unwanted increase in population, Kala appears, and by some arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, people are killed wholesale in different ways. By war, pestilence, famine, and so on. At that time, even atheistic political leaders go to a church, mosque, or temple for protection of God, by God or gods, and submissively say, "God willing." Before that, they pay no attention to God, not caring to know God or His will. But when Kala appears, they say, "God willing." Death is but another feature of the Supreme Kala, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the time of death, the atheist must submit to this Supreme Kala, and then the Supreme Personality of Godhead takes away all his possessions. Mrityu sarva harash chaham. And forces him to accept another body. Tata dihantara prapti. This the atheists do not know. And if they do know, they neglect it, so that they may go on with their normal life. The Krishna consciousness movement is trying to teach them that although for a few years one may act as a great protector or great watchman, with the appearance of Kala, death, one must take another body by the laws of nature. Not knowing this, they unnecessarily waste their time in their occupation as watchdogs, and do not try to get the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it is clearly said, aprapyamam nivartante mrityu sangsara vartmani. Without Krishna consciousness, one is condemned to continue wandering in birth and death, not knowing what will happen in one's next birth. Text 4. Devaki helplessly, piteously appealed to Kamsa, "My dear brother, all good fortune unto you. Don't kill this girl. She will be your daughter-in-law. Indeed, it is unworthy of you to kill a woman." Purport. Kamsa had previously excused Devaki because he thought that a woman should not be killed, especially when pregnant. But now, by the influence of Maya, he was prepared to kill a woman. Not only a woman, but a small, helpless, newborn girl. Devaki wanted to save her brother from this terrible, sinful act. Therefore she told him, "Don't be so atrocious as to kill a female child. Let there be all good fortune for you. Demons can do anything for their personal benefit, not considering what is pious or vicious." But Devaki, on the contrary, although safe because she had already given birth to her own son, Krishna, was anxious to save the daughter of someone else. This was natural for her. Text 5. My dear brother, by the influence of destiny, you have already killed many babies. Each of them is bright and beautiful as fire. But kindly spare this daughter. Give her to me as your gift. Purport. Here we see that Devaki first focused Kamsa's attention on his atrocious activities, his killing of her many sons. Then she wanted to compromise with him by saying that whatever he had done was not his fault, but was ordained by destiny. Then she appealed to him to give her daughter as a gift. Devaki was the daughter of a Kshatriya and knew how to play the political game. In politics, there are different methods of achieving success. First, repression, dhamma, then compromise, sama, then asking for a gift, dana. Devaki first adopted the policy of repression by directly attacking Kamsa for having cruelly, atrociously killed her babies. Then she compromised by saying that this was not his fault, and then she begged for a gift. As we learn from the history of the Mahabharata, or Greater India, the wives and daughters of the ruling class, the Kshatriyas, knew the political game. But we never find that a woman was given the post of chief executive. This is in accordance with the injunctions of Manu Samhita. But unfortunately, Manu Samhita is now being insulted, and the Aryans, the members of the Vedic society, cannot do anything. Such is the nature of Kali Yuga. Nothing happens unless ordained by destiny. Tasyaiva he to, patayeta kovido, prayateta kovido, nalabhyate yad brahmatam uparayadaha, ta labhyate dukkabad anyatak sukham, kalena sarvatra gabirda ramasa. Devaki knew very well that because the killing of her many children had been ordained by destiny, Kamsa was not to be blamed. There was no need to give good instructions to Kamsa. Upadesho himurkanam prakobhaya nashantaye hitopadesh. If a foolish person is given good instructions, he becomes more and more angry. Moreover, a cruel person is more dangerous than a snake. A snake and a cruel person are both cruel, but a cruel person is more dangerous because although a snake can be charmed by mantras or subdued by herbs, a cruel person cannot be subdued by any means. Such was the nature of Kamsa. Text 6. My Lord, my brother, I am very poor, being bereft of all my children, but still I am your younger sister, and therefore it would be worthy of you to give me this last gift as a child, as a gift. Text 7. Shukadeva Goswami continued, piteously embracing her daughter and crying, Devaki begged Kamsa for the child, but he was so cruel that he chastised her and forcibly snatched the child from her hands. Purport. Although Devaki was crying like a very poor woman, actually she was not poor, and therefore the word used here is dinavat. She had already given birth to Krishna, therefore who could have been richer than she? Even the demigods had come to offer prayers to Devaki, but she played the part of a poor, piteously afflicted woman because she wanted to save the daughter of Yashoda. Text 8. Having uprooted all relationships with his sister because of intense selfishness, Kamsa, who was sitting on his knees, grasped the newborn child by the legs and tried to dash her against the surface of a stone. Text 9. the child Yogamaya Devi, the younger sister of Lord Vishnu, slipped upward from Kamsa's hands and appeared in the sky as Devi, the goddess Durga, with 8 arms, completely equipped with weapons. Oops. Purport. Kamsa tried to dash the child downward against a piece of stone, but since she was Yogamaya, the younger sister of Lord Vishnu, she slipped upward and assumed the form of the goddess Durga. The word Anuja, meaning the younger sister, is significant. When Vishnu or Krishna took birth from Devaki, he must have simultaneously taken birth from Yashoda also. Otherwise, how could Yogamaya have been the Anuja, the Lord's younger sister? That means Krishna must have taken birth before her. Text 10 and 11. The goddess Durga was decorated with flower garlands, smeared with sandalwood pulp, and dressed with excellent garments and ornaments made of valuable jewels, holding in her hands a bow, a trident, arrows, a shield, a sword, a conch shell, a disc, and a club, and being praised by celestial beings like Apsaras, Kinnaras, Uragas, Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, who worshipped her with all kinds of presentations. She spoke as follows. Text 12. O Kamsa, you fool, what will be the use of killing me? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has been your enemy from the very beginning, and who will certainly kill you, has already taken his birth somewhere else. Therefore, do not unnecessarily kill other children. This is the second verse is used as the Acharya's example of how Krishna must have been taken birth along with her. Text 13. After speaking to Kamsa in this way, the goddess Durga, Yogamaya, appeared in different places, such as Varanasi, and became celebrated by different names, such as Annapurna, Durga, Kali, and Bhadra. Purport. The goddess Durga is celebrated in Calcutta as Kali, in Bombay as Mumba Devi, in Varanasi as Annapurna, in Cuttack as Bhadrakali, and in Ahmedabad as Bhadra. Thus, in different places, she is known by different names. Her devotees are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas worshippers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself are called Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas are destined to return home, back to Godhead, in the spiritual world, whereas the Shaktas are destined to live within this material world to enjoy different types of material happiness. In the material world, the living entity must accept different types of bodies. Brahmayan, Sarvabhutani, Yantra Rudani Mayaya. According to the living entity's desire, Yogamaya, or Maya, the goddess Durga, gives him a particular type of body, which is mentioned as yantra, a machine. But the living entities who are promoted to the spiritual world do not return to the prison house of a material body. Tyaktva deham punar janma naitimam eti sorjana. The words janma na eti indicate that these living entities remain in their original spiritual bodies to enjoy the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental abodes, Vaikuntha and Vrindavan. Text 14. After hearing the words of the goddess Durga, Kamsa was struck with wonder. Thus he approached his sister, Devaki, and brother-in-law, Vasudeva, released them immediately from their shackles, and very humbly spoke as follows. Purport. Kamsa was astonished because the goddess Durga had become the daughter of Devaki. Since Devaki was a human being, how could the goddess Durga become her daughter? This was one cause of his astonishment. Also, how is it that the 8th child of Devaki was a female? This also astonished him. Asuras are generally devotees of Mother Durga, Shakti, or the demigods, especially Lord Shiva. The appearance of Durga in her original 8-armed feature, holding various weapons, immediately changed Kamsa's mind about Devaki's being an ordinary human. Devaki must have had some transcendental qualities. Otherwise, why would the goddess Durga have taken birth from her womb? Under the circumstances, Kamsa, struck with wonder, wanted to compensate for his atrocities against his sister, Devaki. Text 15. Alas, my sister, alas, my brother-in-law, I am indeed so sinful that exactly like a man-eater, Rakshasa, who eats his own child, I have killed so many sons born of you. Purport. Rakshasas are understood to be accustomed to eating their own sons, as snakes and many other animals sometimes do. At the present moment in Kali Yuga, Rakshasa fathers and mothers are killing their own children in the womb, and some are even eating the fetus with great relish. Thus, the so-called civilization is gradually advancing by producing Rakshasas. The truth will set you free. Text 16. Being merciless and cruel, I have forsaken all my relatives and friends. Therefore, like a person who has killed a Brahmana, I do not know to which planet I shall go, either after death or while breathing. Text 17. Alas, not only human beings, but sometimes even providence lies. And I am so sinful that I believed the omen of providence and killed so many of my sister's children. Text 18. O great souls, your children have suffered their own misfortune. Therefore, please do not lament for them. Pah! All living entities are under the control of the Supreme, and they cannot always live together. Purport. Kamsa addressed his sister and brother-in-law as Mahabhaga, Mahabhagao, because although he killed their ordinary children, the goddess Durga took birth from them. Because Devaki bore Durga Devi in her womb, Kamsa praised both Devaki and her husband. Asuras are very devoted to the goddess Durga, Kali, and so forth. Kamsa, therefore, truly astonished, appreciated the exalted position of his sister and brother-in-law. Durga is certainly not under the laws of nature, because she herself is the controller of the laws of nature. Ordinary living beings, however, are controlled by these laws, prakrite, kriyamanani, gunai, karmani, sarvashaha. Consequently, none of us are allowed to live together for any long period. By speaking in this way, Kamsa tried to pacify his sister and brother-in-law. Text 19. In this world, we can see that pots, dolls, and other products of the earth appear, break, and then disappear, mixing with the earth. Similarly, the bodies of all conditioned living entities are annihilated, but the living entities, like the earth itself, are unchanging and never annihilated. Nahanyate, anyamane, sharire. It sounds like Hiranyakashipu, right? Speaking to his relatives after Hiranyaksha was killed. Purport. Although Kamsa is described as a demon, he had good knowledge of the affairs of Atma Tattva, the truth of the self. So that's not enough, just to know the truth of the self. 5,000, it's necessary, but it's not enough. 5,000 years ago, there were kings like Kamsa, who was described as an asura, but he was better than modern politicians and diplomats who have no knowledge about Atma Tattva. As stated in the Vedas, Asango Yayam Purusha, the Supreme Soul has no connection with the changes of the material body. The body undergoes 6 changes: birth, growth, sustenance, byproducts, dwindling, and then annihilation. But the soul undergoes no such changes. Even after the annihilation of a particular bodily form, the original source of the bodily elements does not change. The living entity enjoys the material body which appears and disappears, but the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, remain the same. The example given here is that pots and dolls are produced from the earth, and when broken or destroyed, they mingle with their original ingredients. In any case, the source of supply remains the same. As already discussed, the body is made according to the desires of the soul. The soul desires, and thus the body is formed. Krishna therefore says in Bhagavad Gita 1861, Ishvarat sarvabhutanam riddhisherjanatishthati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantra rudani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Neither the Supersoul, Paramatma, nor the individual soul changes its original spiritual identity. The Atma does not undergo birth, death, or changes like the body. Therefore, a Vedic aphorism says, Asango Yayam Purusha. Although the soul is conditioned within this material world, he has no connections with the changes of the material body. Text 20. One who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and soul, Atma, becomes too attached to the bodily conception of life. Consequently, because of attachment to the body and its byproducts, he feels affected by union with and separation from his family, society, and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life. Otherwise, one is liberated. Purport. As confirmed in Srimad-Bhagavatam 126, Savai Pungsang Pado Dharmo Yato Bhaktir Arhok Sajay Ahai Tukiya Pratiyata Yayatma Supersedati. The word dharma means engagement. One who was engaged in the service of the Lord, Yato Bhaktir Arhok Sajay, without impediment and without cessation, is understood to be situated in his original spiritual status. When one is promoted to this status, one is always happy in transcendental bliss. Otherwise, as long as one is in the bodily concept of life, one must suffer material conditions. Janma mrityu, jara, vyadi, dukkha, dosha, nudarshanam. The body is subject to its own principles of birth, death, old age, and disease. But one who is situated in spiritual life, yato bhaktir adhok sajay, has no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease. One may argue that we may see a person who is spiritually engaged 24 hours a day, but is still suffering from disease. In fact, however, he is neither suffering nor diseased. Otherwise, he could not be engaged 24 hours a day in spiritual activities. The example may be given in this connection that sometimes dirty foam or garbage is seen floating in the wet water of the Ganges. This is called Niradharma, a function of the water. But one who goes to the Ganges does not mind the foam and dirty things floating in the water. With his hand he pushes away such nasty things, bathes in the Ganges, and gains the beneficial results. Therefore, one who is situated in the spiritual status of life is unaffected by foam and garbage, or any superficial dirty things. This is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami. Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gida nikila swaptabastasu jivan mukta suuchite. A person acting in the service of Krishna with his body, mind, and words is a liberated person, even within the material world. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2, 187. Therefore, one is forbidden to regard the Guru as an ordinary human being. Gurushu naramitir, naraki saha. The spiritual master or acharya is always situated in the spiritual status of life. Birth, death, old age, and disease do not affect him. According to the Hari Bhakti Vilas, therefore, after the disappearance of an acharya, his body is never burnt to ashes, for it is a spiritual body. The spiritual body is always unaffected by material conditions. And we'll stop there for our reading. That's an hour. 7 o'clock. Anything that struck your fancy, stuck in your mind? Yes, Honest John.
I was just thinking about how.
Wait, here comes the open mic.
He was Kamsa was saying he was sorry that he killed all Devaki's and Vasudev's sons, and then he goes right back after this show of I guess apology or whatever. And then he goes, go around 10 miles and kill all the children around the area. It's like not really sorry what he's done. He's just sorry he missed his target.
There you go. There's a nice statement I just read in the Bhagavatam. I can't remember the name of the verse, but it's in the 6th chapter of the first part. And it says there that one's mind is actually determined by his actions. So if one speaks one way and acts another, then he's actually trying to deceive. That's a symptom that he's trying to deceive. So imagine what happens when you have a leader that every single word out of his mouth is something different than what he's doing. What a hellish situation that creates. So this is Kamsa. It says in another place, overwhelmed by selfishness. Overwhelmed by selfishness. He cried and begged forgiveness because, like you said, missed his target. But he also had some piety or some devotion to Durga. And that's why Krishna arranged it to happen like this. And actually, Krishna's pretty expert, He just winds Kamsa up like. Later on it's going to be described that Kamsa, when it comes really time for him to die, and Krishna's coming, he's on his way, and he's already arranged this big wrestling arena festival, and he's got the biggest, strongest wrestlers in his camp ready to attack Krishna. He's got Kulavayapi, the biggest elephant available, in the gateway, and Krishna just comes one after the other and kills him. And then Kamsa's just like, he looks at himself in the mirror and he doesn't see his head. Or he walks and he doesn't see his footsteps. And he's got all these, he's scared like he becomes a ghost. He's so scared, So Krishna's winding him up. That's part of it.
Playing.
Yeah. Yeah, like a cat plays with the mouse. Yes. Marcus.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Bhakti Marcus.
Thank you for the reading. So, something that stoked my interest was the text number 3, when it was talking about how Krishna appears as Kala, and by some arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, people are killed wholesale in different ways by war, pestilence, famine, and so on. And a particular situation that I immediately thought of was, genocide that occurs. And I'm just curious if you could elaborate on how the free will of the perpetrator of genocide, of these genocides that have occurred, intertwines with destiny and the fate of those that are being affected.
It's very, very complicated, because what happens in the world is the sum total of all the sinful reactions of all of the people. So we can't see the things that a person's done to deserve to be in that situation. We can't see it, and therefore we think it's unfair. That's the problem. When we're in ignorance and we can't see through knowledge, then we will blame, God. Of course, we'll want to take credit. When we do something good, we'll, give him credit. But when something bad happens, we don't want to take the credit. So that's the nature of the materially conditioned soul. That's their nature. They're thinking that they are the body, and they're thinking that whatever is connected with the body is theirs. They're thinking the land of their birth is their, is worshipable. They're thinking that their family members are their kith and kin, and therefore they become very attached. And all those conceptions keep them bound in the laws of nature, laws of material nature. I remember when my mother and father both died, especially my mother, because she died last, and my father and I weren't very close. But when she died, I remember feeling, literally, I just was talking to Jorge about this, I remember feeling literally a sense of course, maybe this is because we know what we know, and we've been doing spiritual activities for as long as we have. This was 1997. And I remember feeling some kind of relief, and then I was talking with one of my godbrothers, and he was saying that in Shastra, he had read that when both parents leave the world, then there's a subtle connection that's cut, to the material world. And it makes it easier for us to identify ourselves as independent and therefore free to do spiritual things, not tied down by, material relationships, which are temporary. Yes, Jorge.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I guess touching something like on a similar subject, we're discussing that nothing happens without it being part of destiny, and we always say that this was Krishna's arrangement, and we were hearing today in class that Maharaj mentioned a situation where the devotees told Prabhupada that it was just Krishna's arrangement, and Prabhupada said no, this was your mistake.
Oh, I was personally, physically present when this happened. I don't know, it may have been a different incident, but it was San Francisco, 1974, and Prabhupada, the way the temple was organized, the person who was bringing the deity plates, or maybe it was Prabhupada's plates, I don't remember which, but Prabhupada was coming down the stairs, and the devotee came, kind of like behind him, and then came in front, and then dropped the plates. He tripped, and then dropped the plates. And then he said, under his breath, "Oh, Krishna's mercy." I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe I got to get the attention of my spiritual master. I don't know what he was thinking. Prabhupada said, "No, that was your stupidity." you know. So yeah. Like I said, destiny is very, very complex. You can't actually figure it all out. It's too complex. And if you try to figure it out by your mundane material intelligence, you'll just become confused. And that's what happens.
So I guess my question is how do we get out of this mentality of just saying everything's Krishna's arrangement?
Take Krishna's instructions,
Hmm.
because it is providence doesn't necessarily mean Krishna's will directly.
Yeah.
You know, Maya Dyakshana Prakriti, he's indirectly responsible. He's not directly responsible. He doesn't have anything to do with the material world, actually. I was just reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita during my recording yesterday, where Sanatana Goswami is being instructed by Lord Chaitanya, and he describes how Krishna expands himself, and then expands himself again. It's called and then expands himself again, and then the expansion that touches the material energy is called Shiva. Even though he's an expansion of Krishna, but when he touches the material energy, he transforms. And therefore, he's not a jiva, and he's not a Vishnu tattva either. He's not jiva tattva, he's not Vishnu tattva. Just like yogurt, when touched with the culture, milk, touched with the culture, then becomes yogurt. So it's both milk. It's only milk, but you can't use the yogurt for the same thing as you use milk, and vice versa. The expert cooks know this. And you can't turn yogurt back to milk. You can turn milk to yogurt, but you can't turn yogurt back to milk. So therefore, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, because they actually touch the material energy, have something to do with the material energy, they're considered to be Shaktivesh. They're not Vishnu Tattva. But Vishnu is Vishnu Tattva. And he doesn't have anything to do with the material energy. He doesn't touch the material energy. So therefore, providence doesn't necessarily mean that it's Krishna directly doing it, but it's the sum total of all of the karmic reactions of all the living beings combined together with the laws of nature that create destiny or providence. Sometimes it is Krishna directly. You know, in the heart of a pure devotee, sometimes something will happen that will be directly providential. You know, when the disciple meets the spiritual master and actually becomes enlightened and takes initiation, that is providence. That is spiritual providence, spiritual destiny. But that requires that the spiritual master be completely qualified and the disciple be qualified for it to be that level of spiritual destiny. So it's not so easy to just, come to a conclusion about something just because there's a gross incident. I mean, you can say by the laws of nature, personalities who have the same kind of general karma become born in the same country, for example, or in the same family, or whatever. There's reasons for that, laws of nature. Material tendencies are the same. The modes of nature are similar,
Thank you, Mark.
Because then you get free from this question or this doubt of why bad things happen to good people. Here, a baby, something happens to him and he dies in one of these, shootings or accident, and he didn't do anything practically. So he's a good person. He didn't do anything wrong. So why should that happen to him? That means you don't know what he did before. How many things he did in previous lifetimes that caused that to have to happen to him, for him to become purified. It's actually good for the souls to have these things happen to him. But unless we're in knowledge, so you're asking how we get free from this ignorance, you have to find out. and not just find out. That's why I pointed out that it's not enough to just know that you're not the body. You have to know how to act as a soul. When you find out that you're a soul, and then you find out what the soul is, and you find out who the source of the soul is, and you find out that you're a servant of the source, then you have to act like it. And if you act like it, then gradually become free from the influence of material nature. And that happens through Krishna directly saying, back off from this soul, from inside the heart. The Super will say, back off from this soul. So you can't get free from the modes of nature unless Krishna chooses you. You especially can't see Krishna and see Krishna directly and be taken back to the spiritual world to be with Krishna and be your eternal associate with Krishna unless you're chosen by Krishna. And who's chosen are those persons who want it and agree to act properly according to His will. What did Jesus said? Not my, but Thy will, O Lord. Which is the same thing that Sanatana Goswami said when asked about surrender. You know, six phases of the 6 aspects of surrender. You know, you accept what is favorable for devotional advancement. You reject what is unfavorable. Then you feel the presence of the Lord during your daily life. By doing that, you sense, and then from that feeling you feel protected, and then you want to do the will of Krishna. You want your will to be one with Krishna. That's oneness, not that you merge and became the same person. Then there's no love. Then there's no, there's no loving service, and therefore there's no relationship, and therefore there's no fulfillment, no bliss, no real pleasure. And then you become ultimately meek and humble, because then you realize who you are in relationship with God. And when you do, then you realize, hey, I'm just a speck here in this universe, and without the mercy of Krishna, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to get out of this mess. Yes, Rati Manjari.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I had a small question about the purport of text 5, chapter 10, and Srila Prabhupada writes about the Manu Samhita, that as we learn from the history of the Mahabharata or Greater India, the wives and daughters of the ruling class, the Kshatriyas, knew the political game, but we never find that the woman was given the post of chief executive. This is in accordance with the injunctions of Manu Samhita. But unfortunately, Manu Samhita is now being insulted, and the Aryans, members of Vedic societies, cannot do anything. Such is the nature of Kali Yuga. Is he referring to Indira Gandhi being president?
No, he's referring to any. Yes, he is. He is indirectly, but a woman can be intelligent, a woman can control, a woman can do so many things, but to be the ruler in the true sense, you have to go out on the battlefield in front, and you have to defend the country. So it's only been recently that they allow women to go onto the front lines in battle. Only recently, and that's what it means.
Thank you.
But before, it's not that they didn't have any role. The women in the World War II, the American women, they did a lot of things. They made the clothes for the soldiers. They made the rations. They even made the bullets and weapons. They were very instrumental. They were very helpful. They were very part of the process. So, yeah. So insult for the Brahma Manu Samhita to be insulted means to try to act against the laws of nature. So this is against the laws of nature, to put the woman out in front as the executive head You know, it's not natural. The bodily structure is different, and the psychophysiological nature is different. It's not meant to do that by nature. But out of ignorance, they don't know this, and therefore they think it's not fair, and therefore they think, you know, why can't we go out in the battle? That's real smart. Why can't we go out in the... It used to be, you know, when a boat's going down, the women and the children get on the life things first. I mean, I'd rather be in that position, because now I'm an old man, so old men sometimes get that privilege. But, well, sometimes. But you know, when I was a young man, you know, when you take a date out in a car, you went around and you opened the door, and she got out, and you run to the door, and you open the door, and she went to the door. It's like, you know, that's to me, that's like an insult now. You know, it's like in this way the Manusamita is being insulted. You know.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Sarva.
Just thought it was kind of charming how Prabhupada compared the watchman. There was a verse about the watchman of the King Kamsa's prison, and he compared them to the politicians and diplomats who think they are protecting their neighborhoods. He said, one who surrenders to Krishna is relieved of the protection afforded by the dogs and dog-like guardians of this material world. And you made a nice comment about the immigration officials.
Yeah, Prabhupada used to say, because he would come to the, you know, he was coming into, in that time, an Indian who had he didn't have a green card when he first came. He just, you know, and the way he was treated, it was like, rough, why are you coming in here? Rough. And now it's even worse, you know, with our present administration. They're trying to make it impossible. Even though the country has been made so strong by all the different personalities who have come here, you know. It's just ignorance. Animal society. These are animals, or worse, rakshasas. There was a story about a lioness who had cubs, and then, you know, the next morning she ate them. Maybe she was hungry. It's animal. Human beings don't do that, but they're doing it. So that means we've become not even human society. Yes, Robert, please.
So, I heard you say that we can't really know our destinies, correct? If I heard you correctly.
Well, we can't know everything about the complex actions and reactions that bring us together and bring us apart and cause, you know, we can know in principle, we know generally in principle, you know, that whatever happens to us is deserved. Mm-hmm. Nothing happens to us that's not deserved, both good and bad, or indifferent.
So my question would be is there any specific way where we can kind of manifest our destiny? Is that possible?
Well, there is a science, a divinatory science in the Vedas. It's called astrology, where you can calculate the birthplace and time of a person, and by the influence, by the astronomical influences of the person at that time, you can predict, and you can also know where they were before. But it's a very deep and very difficult science to do. And I mean, Prabhupada was, when Prabhupada was born, the astrologer that did his birth chart said, and this is written down, and it was also written in the book in Prabhupada Lamrita, that when he was 70 years old, he would go across the ocean and he would establish exactly 108 centers, and he'd become a great spiritual leader. because time is known by Krishna, past, present, and future. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjana bhavishani chabhutani mam tu veda nikaschana. I know everything, Krishna says in the Gita. Everything that's happened before, everything that's happening now, and everything that will happen in the future. If someone is actually pure and empowered by Krishna, he can also know through the process of divinatory science in the Vedas and also through Shastra. He can know things that have happened before and he can know things that happen in the future. Okay, it sounds like very mystical, but it's just a matter of complex calculation. It's mathematical calculations actually, but very, very subtle and very deep and very intricate. It's like, I can say, all right, it's coming up to September, and now it's going to start to cool off, and the weather's going to get cool. So, hey, it happens like that every year, so that's no big deal. But a little child that doesn't know anything, and his father will say, yes, in a few days the trees will come out, and the leaves will come on the trees. The child will see the leaves come out of the trees. Oh, my father's God. Pay my obeisance. No.
Yeah.
So it requires knowledge, realized knowledge. We don't have the power of the material energy now is weaker than it was before. When the world was predominantly in goodness, then there was an access to these levels of knowledge. There were great yogis who could actually perceive the subtle body, perceive the subtle energy by austerity and by yogic perfection, yogic austerities and learning to control the wind in the body and move the soul from one part of the body through different energy centers within the body. Yeah, so, but now it's so contaminated. This looks like it's really advanced. In all the way, and I'm sending it out to everywhere, to the electronic, development of electronics. But actually what's happening is those waves are going everywhere, and they're going through our subtle bodies, through our minds and our bodies, and they're causing us great difficulty to concentrate the mind. So now we don't have the same capacity to do those things. In special circumstances, it's possible, but generally it's not happened. Therefore, in this age, according to Bhagavatam, in this age, we can get the same benefit as we get from these mystic perfections in the previous ages, when the modes of nature were predominantly good. Now they're predominantly bad. And you can see it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what's happening in the world and how people are treating one another and how they're treating the earth, how they could care less as long as they get wealth for themselves and their special family members and this and that. That's all they care about. That's how come Kamsa was, like begging forgiveness, because he knew the jig was up, It was when he went to and talked to his advisors, who were all demoniac, that he actually changed and went back to the idea of, killing all the children, within a certain time and within a certain space, surrounding space.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Yes. I got 2 minutes and then I'm leaving. I won't just sit They can do that before. Other ages, they could do things like that.
Yes, Maharaj. In text 20, it says in second paragraph, as already discussed, the body is made according to the desires of the soul. The soul desires, and thus the body is formed Krishna therefore says in Bhagavad Gita 1861, but the body is already formed before the soul comes in that body. So how that
The form is not formed before the soul comes in the body. The elements are there, the soul comes there, and after the soul comes, then the body, and then the thing's constructed. It's not that the thing's constructed and then the soul enters. The soul doesn't enter after the body's constructed. The soul, the ingredients to construct the body are there, but it's not constructed until the soul is there in the womb of the mother. Okay?
Okay.
No. 18 seconds off. Yeah, is there anything from cyberspace?
Yeah, there was a message that Chelsea sent, that Lucia and Chelsea, they're making garlands, and they say, sorry, we couldn't make it. But
They already came to my door and told me that already.
Okay, well,
They're so sweet.
Yeah.
That triumphant Chelsea
And Lucia. Yeah.
And
Chelsea.
no, and Noah.
Noah, yeah. Yes.
Chelsea, Lucia, and Noah.
And they say, don't forget the fruit in the fridge, guys. So.
Okay, that's our message from the cyberspace
Yes.
now. And with that, I'm going. Don't mind. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Don't forget everybody out in cyberspace to share, and so that we can expand the number of persons that can take the benefit of these readings. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow night, same place, same time, same station. Hare Krishna.